7 years in, our life had a rhythm: 2 mugs on the rack, her cardigan on the dining chair, my keys in the chipped blue bowl by the door. We weren't flashy, just comfortable. When Rachel said she had a 3-day conference out of town, I kissed her at the curb and told her to sleep in. Trust wasn't a word between us. It was the air. She came back Thursday with a hotel candle smell on her clothes and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Long trip," she said, hugging me with her arms but not her weight. I told myself she was tired. I filled the kettle, asked about panels, and she answered like a student reciting facts. When I reached for her hand on the couch, she flinched a millimeter, so small you could call it nothing. I called it nothing. The days after were little losses. She left her favorite mug on the roof of the car and drove off. She laughed at a story I'd told 2 days earlier like it was brand new. Her phone, once abandoned on every surface of our house, began traveling everywhere in her pocket. Face down when it rested, she started sleeping in a straight line, like the bed was a narrow bridge. I tried to be good. I cooked her pasta. I asked soft questions, offered softer silences, but the more space I gave, the more I felt her drift. The house adjusted, the hallway light pooling at night, the heater clicking in the quiet between us. I caught my reflection in the microwave door one evening, spoon in hand, looking like a man who'd misplaced something precious. One night I heard her in the kitchen at 2 a.m., whispering to the refrigerator glow. "I can't talk now," she said. Not the hiss of a teenager, but the calm of someone already somewhere else. The call ended, the light snapped off. She returned to bed and lay on the edge, careful as a guest. I wanted to shake answers out of the dark. Instead, I chose patience. I told myself love is generous, that exhaustion wears strange masks, that good husbands don't cross-examine. In the morning, I kissed her temple and said, "Take your time." She smiled at the coffee, not at me. That's when I started watching quietly, as if the truth were a shy animal that would only come close if I stood very still. The truth didn't arrive as a bang. It arrived as a pattern. Receipts from a hotel bar she'd never mentioned, a new playlist called Focus full of wordless songs, freshly ironed blouses like we were dating, and every crease needed permission. On Saturday, I suggested a movie. She said she had emails. I stood in the doorway, watching her stare at a blank screen like she was waiting for a script to appear. "You okay?" I asked. "Just tired," she said, the same 2 words she kept handing me like coins to pay for silence. I began a private ledger. Times she smiled without seeing me, places her story stitched unevenly. I didn't touch her phone. I didn't follow her. I wanted the truth to come from her mouth, not from a breadcrumb trail I'd resent later. But once you start measuring distance, you can't stop. Tuesday night it broke. Rain tapped the windows, streetlight pooling gold across the floor. I set the plates down and said, "Sit with me a second." She sat, hands folded like a child. In church, my voice surprised me, gentle, steady. "Rachel, is there something you need to tell me?" She looked at the table. A full minute passed, then another. "Nothing happened," she said. Which is how people confess without confessing. My throat went dry. I nodded like a doctor hearing a prognosis and said, "I know what happened." The air changed shape between us. She covered her face, shoulders folding. Not crying, just collapsing like a structure when you remove one beam. "Too many. It was the conference," she whispered. "A colleague. It was one time. I didn't mean. Meaning doesn't sew a wound shut." I let her words finish and kept my hands flat on the table so I wouldn't catch them. A calm moved through me, cold and clarifying. I wasn't thinking about his name or face. I was thinking about ours. Was it worth risking this? I asked. She didn't answer. The rain kept ticking. "The pasta cooled," she said. "I'm sorry." And I believe she was. But apology is a bridge you have to meet on. And I couldn't walk to the center for both of us. "I can't carry this," I said. "Not for you. Not for me." And for the first time since she returned, I felt the ground beneath my feet. The next morning the sun came in pale and thin, the way winter light always does when you're not sleeping well. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching her pack a small overnight bag. She didn't look at me. She didn't ask if I wanted her to stay. That told me everything. There was no fight left, no desperate grabbing at what we'd built. Just the sound of a zipper closing, I remembered the way we'd moved into this place, carrying boxes up to flights of stairs, laughing when we dropped one full of glasses. Now, the same rooms felt like they belonged to strangers. She stopped at the door, backstrap in hand. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said. My voice didn't rise, and yet, here we are. Her eyes glossed over. For a moment, I thought she might step forward, say something worth saving. Instead, she just nodded, turned, and laughed. The click of the latch behind her was louder than it should have been. The silence after was a living thing. I walked through the kitchen, past the cold coffee in the pot, past the plate she'd barely touched last night. The air was heavy but clean, like the moment after a storm when you know it's over. Even if the ground is still soaked, I sat at the table and let it hit me, the finality, the grief, the strange sense of relief. I had been bracing for the blow for days, maybe weeks. Now that it had landed, I could finally stop holding my breath. That night, I lay in bed alone and thought about trust, not hers, but mine, how easily I'd given it, how carelessly she'd spent it. I realized something then. Losing her wasn't the worst thing that happened to me. Staying with someone who could betray me like that would have been done in the quiet. I promised myself I'd only open my heart again for someone who knew what it meant to hold it carefully, someone who wouldn't mistake love for something disposable. And for the first time in weeks, I closed my eyes without wondering who she was texting.